Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Women in Cybersecurity event. My name is Dr. Allison Yakishin, and I proudly serve as the Dean of Faculty of Management here at Concordia University of Edmonton. It is wonderful to be here and to welcome you to today's inaugural Women in Cybersecurity event. This event is one of many that Concordia has hosted throughout the month of October for Cybersecurity Month, bringing awareness to our amazing programs and outreach initiatives for being cyber safe, such as our Faculty of Management's monthly online InfoSec seminar and our Master of Information Security Assurance Management, Miss Sam, 10th anniversary celebration that is happening right here tomorrow, starting at 3 p.m. If you like parties and cake, please join us again tomorrow. Before we begin, although we have some people joining us online from elsewhere, I will start by acknowledging that the land on which Concordia is located is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and Nakota Sioux peoples. We respect the rich histories, languages, and cultures of Indigenous peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. I would also like to acknowledge the individuals that put together today's event and our wonderful group of speakers who have taken the time out of their day to share their stories with us. Thank you to Nikki, Samita, and Pooja. Now, I get the honor to introduce you to Josephine Ma, Concordia University of Edmonton's Director of Communications and Marketing. You might be wondering why I am not emceeing today's event. And it's because Josephine is a champion not only for today's Women in Cybersecurity event, but for Concordia as a whole. Once you hear her speak today, you'll want to listen to her more often, and you can. If you tune into a Cup of Joe with Tim podcasts with Tim, it's a podcast that is available wherever you listen to podcasts. I listen to the podcasts when I'm walking with my puppy, and I learn something new every time I listen. Josephine is great at making others shine, like myself and our president, Dr. Tim Lorman, and I see, Dr. Barbara Van Ingen, our vice president academic and provost here, as well as other deans in the audience. So, without further ado, I would like to turn the mic over to Josephine to get this amazing panel discussion going. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison, for that lovely introduction. Thank you, everyone, for coming today for this Women in Cybersecurity panel. We have three people who have come up through the Concordia University of Edmonton system in cybersecurity. So we're really excited to have you guys. And let me just introduce you guys to them today. So first of all, I just want to say that the goal of today is really to hear from three women and their career journeys, and having carved a niche in this very male-dominated industry. And it's also to raise awareness, of course, of our cybersecurity programs here at CUE. So we have 3 master's programs, 2 of which are in the Faculty of Management and 1 in Science. And of course, we also have an undergraduate degree with a cybersecurity emphasis as well. And it's also here today, we're hoping to encourage women who are interested in pursuing something in STEM, maybe outside of kind of the traditional norms, but definitely maybe coming to CUE and learning cybersecurity, just like our panelists today. So let me introduce you to who we will be hearing from today. To my left is Nikisha Farrell-Myers, and she is a technology professional and consultant living and working in Edmonton, Alberta. With over 15 years of experience in information technology, she currently focuses on cybersecurity. Her experience spans the domains of security architecture, governance, risk, and compliance while working in public and private sectors, including Fortune 500 companies. Nikki has a background in pedagogy and has helped develop several ICT and cybersecurity courses in the Caribbean and here in Canada. She describes herself as a lifelong learner and a lifelong questioner. And we love to hear that, of course, as a learning institution. And when she isn't strategizing how to do cyber better, Nikki loves connecting with and serving in her community, listening to podcasts. I have one to recommend to you. Reading a good book, and usually reading at least two at the same time. So let's give a warm welcome to Nikki.
Thanks, Josephine.
And then beside her is Samitha Keshareddy. So Samitha Keshareddy works at Secure Ops as a network security analyst, providing SOC operations to both Canada and American clients. She holds a Comp TIA Security Plus and CYSA Plus certifications and a master's degree from Concordia University of Edmonton with a major in information systems and security management. And while at Q, Samitha actually contributed to research work for a blockchain technology book called Auditor's Guide to Blockchain Technology. She's currently working towards her other industrial certifications that would help for her career growth and other opportunities. Please welcome to our panel, Samitha. And then finally, to round out our panel is Pooja Shah, who is a second-year MISM student here at Q. And prior to entering this program, she has 8 years of experience in cybersecurity. She specializes in endpoint security, data protection, and compliance assessment. And Pooja is currently working as a security research graduate at Treefort Technologies here in Edmonton, a career that she actually got through being a student here, which is amazing. And thanks to MyTax funding, we're able to expand the research and compliance efforts for small and medium-sized businesses. And yesterday, you might have also saw Pooja on CTV News. She was on the morning show with us to help promote this panel. So please welcome to this panel, Pooja. All right, ladies, we have lots of questions for you today, so I want to jump right to it. So maybe we'll start with you, Nikki. Can you just tell us kind of how did your interest in cybersecurity even begin, and how did you get into this industry?
That's fair. Thanks, Josephine. I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this panel, and I was glad to be asked. It's been a while since I've been back to Concordia, and of course, it has a special place in my heart because this is where I pursued my master's in information systems security program. All right, so Nikki, I am currently the senior manager of IT security and compliance at AMA here in Edmonton, and I kind of had maybe a more traditional path into cybersecurity. I started my career in information technology. I like to say that my love affair began sometime in high school when I had to build a program I can't even remember what I wanted it to do at this point. But what I do know is I was so frustrated by it that I found that intriguing, right? Like I just couldn't get my program to work. And I remember going to bed and literally waking up in the middle of the night like, aha, eureka, I got it, right? And like going to my PC and putting the code in and it working and being like, okay. So it was just like this kind of crazy love affair where, you have these problems to solve and you can come up with creative ways to do it. And so that was kind of my track into IT. I started as a programmer. I did front-end web development, and then I kind of branched off into teaching of programming and other courses within IT. And as I was, building my educational, career, I started to attend a bunch of seminars and got asked to develop a course that was about cybersecurity, right? That was about this thing that was just kind of evolving and kind of blowing things up. And as I was working on that committee to build this course, it just kind of, my interest peaked and I was like, I'm gonna do this, right? Because it's, it's blossoming, it's becoming, and that kind of led me to Concordia. At the time, when I was searching for a program, it was one of only 2 in Canada So that's what brought me to snowy Edmonton from sunny Caribbean. And yeah, the rest is history.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What about you, Samatha? Tell us how you got into cybersecurity and kind of like what keeps you even in that field?
Oh, well, yeah, thank you so much for introducing. And it is really good to be back to school because I never got an opportunity to meet everyone in person because my complete master's was online. So it's good to be here. And yeah, well, for me, it's like a straightforward to come into cybersecurity. But then before coming to here, I have a bachelor's degree from computer science, and then I just followed the same tradition like everyone does, and I did join the software as a software associate, and then I really didn't feel that like more exciting or anything that we're doing something new. Then I started to research on all the different other domains which we have, where we can see all the challenges in the day-to-day life, and work along with the people, and be close with the people as well. Then I started to research on all the topics, and then I came across the cybersecurity course and the Concordia University through one of my other colleague in the same company. Then I applied for the Concordia University, and then I got in here as an immigrant. Yeah, it's been a little difficult for me because of the weather and everything in the Edmonton, but and then the COVID hit, and it was really tough. But then yeah, I got it here. Yeah.
I'm noticing a theme that the weather in Edmonton's a bit of a deterrent here. So I'm noticing that. All right. And then
Exactly.
so then what about for you, Pooja? How did you get into, in particular, cybersecurity?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity to be the panelist. So, about my story, it started with a degree in computer science, and then I can relate my story to both Samita and Nikisha. So, I did not like coding that much. So I worked for a year and then I was looking for something which involved less coding. And this was like one of the things. So I did my master's in digital forensics. After that, I moved to Bangalore to do my internship. So there I worked in endpoint security, data loss prevention. So I had a lot of experience in security engineering and security tools. Now, after like spending 6 years, I wanted to move up the ladder, eventually move to a leadership position. So I was looking for a course which can provide me an experience which is like a combination of both security plus management. And I think Concordia is the only university which has that combination. So that is something that I found very unique. And after coming here, it's been so exciting, very challenging, but yeah, a lot more exciting. So right now, I'm doing a lot of things. Like I'm studying, plus I'm working as a security research graduate for Treefort. There we are helping that organization with compliance. We are also expanding these research so that we can help these small and medium-sized businesses in Edmonton. Sorry, not in Edmonton, but overall. And also, it's like apart from this, we are taking a lot of initiatives for cybersecurity awareness. We are running clubs, the student clubs here. So I think the overall journey for me has been amazing.
That's one of the great things about being in a small university is that you actually get the opportunity to do a lot of things that you traditionally would not have had the opportunity to do, like form a club or lead a club or even get an internship that leads you to a role that you might stay in even after you're graduated. So that's definitely one of the pluses of being here. So as we know, that today's panel is women in cybersecurity. So I do want to talk a little bit about kind of your experiences in that industry. So, have you faced any challenges being a woman in cybersecurity? And if so, how have you navigated those? So, maybe we'll start with you, Samatha.
Well, so initially, I don't see many women in cybersecurity. And when I started to, network with other people, when I was looking for my job after my graduation, it was really hard for me to find any women to talk like a little more comfortably or like closely with the people and share my experience and look for other opportunities. But then I came across the vices, the women in cybersecurity team, and then I met very nice people in there, and then I got like little more comfortable, and the confidence has increased in me because of looking at all around the women. And the first most challenging thing is that I work as a SOC analyst. So for me, it's like a 24/7 services that we do provide. So it's a little more challenging for women to be available all the time. And at the same time, following my own personal work and the family as well. So that's the first most important thing that I usually faced. And when I want to get on to the higher positions, I only see men in my team, and I was the only senior analyst working in my team, and it was little challenging for me to get on there and speak up to them. So that's the biggest one that I faced. And yeah, now it's all good, and I have a couple more people who come into my team in the women as well. And I now see a lot of other people who are joining in the courses, and requesting me also to have certain suggestions for the certifications that we do and how to get onto the people. So it's a lot better than what I saw 2 years back and now what I'm seeing. So yeah, I feel good about it.
Awesome. And I think that opportunities like this, where we can highlight women, kind of breaking some of these gender stereotypes and some of the gender norms in the industry, are really helpful because other people can maybe see themselves in your stories as well too. So I think that that's great. Okay, so then what about you, Nikki? Tell me a bit about, maybe some opportunities that you've had to kind of either break some of those stereotypes or confront some of those maybe misconceptions about women in cybersecurity.
Right. I think that one thing that's common with us sitting on the stage is that we kind of took that route of computer science and then into cybersecurity. And so I'd say, for all of my adult education life, either I'd be like the only woman in those groups, or I'd be definitely one of very few, right? So I think that probably feels very familiar,
yeah, for sure.
and that's what Sam talked about in terms of just representation, not being able to see yourself in something that you're shooting for, is sometimes very difficult, right? And so for me, what I've tried to do is to show up in these spaces, right? To bring my A game to these spaces. And I think that there's a part of that that feels a little bit unfair, that sometimes you feel like you have to be extra because you are trying to break traditional molds that have been created. But I think that that's fine. I'm not bitter about it because
Love that, yeah.
I think we are now in spaces that weren't traditionally designed for women, and we can talk about all of the reasons why that's true. Traditionally we kept we were the ones that were at home and taking care of the family, right? And so I think that if men walked into family spaces, they might actually feel some of what we feel when we walk into a workplace that has traditionally been dominated by by men. And I'm kind of grappling with some of this right now because I've just gone back to work from mat leave. I had my first child last November.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had my first child last November. And so, last week I resumed work. And before I went on leave, I really had to think about how is my career going to be affected if I'm out for 12 months? Is that going to have repercussions for promotions and that kind of thing, right? The flip side of that is that my husband is now at home with our daughter.
Oh, I love that. Really flipping the gender norms.
Yeah,
and
so
the
we
gender
flipped
roles.
it. So in my personal life and in my professional life, I really am trying to live this. And he, as he was kind of thinking about, I'm gonna be home now for 6 months. Well, it's ending up being a little bit longer. He's also having those thoughts about, well, how is this going to affect him at this stage in his career? And I think that if he hadn't even considered, doing it, he wouldn't have had those thoughts. And so I think that one of the things that's important for us to do is to continue to advocate for women, to continue to have these conversations with everyone. I don't think that this is just a female issue. I think it's everyone's issue. I think we need to invite women into male spaces so that we can talk about these, that this wasn't designed for me and these are the accommodations or some of the things that I would like to see and I would like to talk about. And then I think that we should also include men into traditional women's spaces so that they
Yes,
can
preach,
then
girl,
have
preach.
that, right? So that they can have that experience. And then we realize that it's just two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great response. And that kind of harkens back to what Samitha was saying earlier about how you kind of almost have to be available 24/7 in order to be in cybersecurity. And, you know, like cybercrime doesn't rest. It doesn't live in certain time zones. It's all over the place. So you kind of always have to be available. And as you say, make those accommodations. So I'll ask the same question of Huja. So have you had maybe even just maybe in your career here as well too as a student, like tell me about some of maybe the challenges that you might have faced as a woman in a traditionally male-dominated field.
Right. So Samita and Nikisha covered it really well. I'll just tell about my story. So, ever since beginning, yes, I think I was lucky that I was supported by a lot of inspiring and motivating people. So that kind of helped me overall. But once in a while, of course, there will be few people who you think that they may have some biases. And at times like this, like Nikisha said, that we have to push harder and we have to work harder, we have to prove ourselves. So I just took it positively. It helped me overall. And one thing that I felt that can be, an internal thing for women is like I lacked confidence to showcase my work. So to overcome this, I just, tried showing up, like Nikisha said, that, doesn't matter whether you are prepared or not, just go for it. And then, you'll get through it. It's okay.
Totally. Fake it till you make it. That's basically
Kind
what I do
of.
in my job, like all the time. So yeah.
Yes. So,
My boss isn't here. No one's listening.
just summarizing it, if you find any kind of challenges, then maybe having a community who can support you, and then believing in yourself, working harder, all these things can help you.
Absolutely. And it was so nice to see that even prior to this panel, the three of you, kind of know each other and you're catching up and you're sharing stories and really supporting each other in that kind of way. And that's so lovely to see, especially since this common thread that you have of being Q graduates or soon to be graduates as well. Okay, so kind of going back to something that Nikki said, I wanted to ask you, so how do you think that the cybersecurity industry can better support women so that there is a bit more representation and diversity in that particular field?
Yeah, it's a tough question and one that we're grappling with, I think, across STEM in general, right? Because if we step back for a bit, this isn't just a women in cybersecurity issue, it's a women in the workplace issue. And that is generally in areas where women haven't shown up. I think that there are a few things that can be done. I think that women need to bring their whole selves to work. Like I said, I definitely feel some of that tension in the last year that I didn't necessarily grapple with before, having to leave the workplace. I'll reference one thing. So there's this study that talked about the gender pay gap in the workplace, right? And, traditionally we think about it as, maybe women just don't negotiate well, or there are stereotypes and biases that somehow affect us having lower salaries. But that study, one of the other things that it revealed was that one of the reasons that we end up with sometimes lower pay for similar roles is because a woman is more likely to be out of the workplace because she'll take leave, and then that's potentially a missed opportunity because that's a year that you haven't contributed. And if you have 2 kids or 3 kids, then all of a sudden it starts compounding, right? And so I think that we should have conversations about sort of what is normal and then what accommodations women might necessarily need. So again, I believe in personally doing the things, like I'm not just spewing this to you. I believe in also practicing what I preach. And so how this has shown up for me is I had that conversation with the person that I reported to, right? Like I have like this is kind of my goals in terms of where I want to go in the next 5 years with my career. This is the plan that we're kind of attacking. Like if I want to get there, this is kind of what is the expectations are. And so now I'm going to be out for a year. How does that affect that plan, right? Also, how do I get credited for the work that I did in the year that I took leave when I missed that whole performance review period, right? So I'm just going to be honest about just bringing these things up. But I do also realize, I don't want to hog, I'll pass it soon. I do also realize that I am at a point in my career where I feel comfortable to raise these issues and just be honest about it. Whereas if I don't know if I would have felt as bold or as confident 10 years ago. Right?
Absolutely.
And so, what do you do if you're just entering and you feel like, well, I really need this job, right? And that's where I feel like communities like WISIS, Women in Cybersecurity, become very important. It's all women working in the field who are, mentoring and advocating for other women. And I think that, that really helps. Other things like getting out into the community and connecting, right, with persons. Again, when I left Concordia, I felt like the cybersecurity community in Edmonton was huge. Ask me that question today, absolutely not. It's so tiny. My perspective has completely changed, and that's because I got out, I met people, I got engaged in putting on conferences. I worked with people like Benoit, who was my prof, and like personally at my company in his other capacity, right? And so you start seeing the same faces, you start you start personalizing people, right? It's not this barrier like, oh my God, can I talk to this person, right? It's just another human on the other side, and you start building those relationships, and then we can, then you have advocates, and then we can get some movement and some traction. Yeah.
And building that network of support is super important, I think, regardless of what field that you are actually in. So absolutely. So Samitha, same question goes to you. How do you think that the industry can support having more women represented at kind of these in the back room?
Well, I think, yeah, sorry. So she covered almost all the points that she can do. See, from my personal experience, I don't have anyone, even from my family, who is working out of the STEM, and everyone was into the software industry. And honestly, no one actually encouraged me or supported me when I told that I want to get into the cybersecurity. And then I just want to break those barriers. And then I started showing them that this is how I can do. And then I ended up here, and then I started to, find people who are like-minded, and I started to find groups where all the people are communicating, and I do see very less women in those groups as well. And I joined the community, which I already mentioned, the Vices, and then I started to meet other people who actually changed their careers into cybersecurity and got to know their stories. And then I really met lovely people who actually connected me with you, the Haima as well. And that's how, like, if you want to do something, just be confident enough to do that. And just think on what else you can do, and just showcase yourself on what you can do. And if you start doing, then absolutely everything will falls into your in line, and it helps you to grow as well. It might take a little longer in cybersecurity because you don't have much exposure, and everyone is looking for a lot of people who actually have previous experience, but not really looking for someone who is really new into the field. So it's just that you have to work really hard and get to know better on what you want to do and how you want to get into there. And that's how I do tell them.
Yeah, definitely. So that's some good advice there. So find your cheerleaders and find some champions for you who can kind of help you with networking and help you find your niche there. So what about for you, Pooja? What do you think about making the industry a little more female friendly?
Yes. I think first thing is to understand why diversity is required. So men and women, they think differently, their brains work differently. So in cybersecurity, it's very important to have those different perspectives when you want to nail something. So I think that when we encourage more women, more diversity in the work environments, it definitely generates better results. So understanding that, and we also talk in Women in Cybersecurity that it's not just for women, it's for the equality or the diversity of our community in workplaces. So men and women both can support each other, like for tackling their challenges, and together they can generate great results. I think that's what it is about.
Absolutely. And you've touched on something really important here, which is the fact that when you have diversity in the industry, there's actually more than just kind of the gender component to this. There's actually a really good business case for why we would want women at the table, which is that we bring a different diversity and a different perspective. And even just looking at us in terms of intersectionality, I mean, we're all racialized women up here. So we all bring different experiences to the table than a traditionally kind of someone who you would expect to be in an IT or cybersecurity kind of role. So there's definitely that to consider as well. So next question I wanted to ask you guys is so what's the best advice that you have been given thus far in your career that you would want to share and kind of pass forward now to the next generation? They're making you start again,
Yeah,
Nikki.
I'm gonna start. No worries. The one thing that I'd want to say to the next up and coming cyber experts would be to show up as yourself. Honestly, that's probably the one thing I wish I could say to my younger self, but the paradox would be if I knew it in my younger self, then maybe it wouldn't be as valuable as it is now. But that's a philosophical conversation that I don't think we want to get into, right?
That would take another hour.
Right. But I feel like showing up as yourself is so critical. There was something that Pooja said earlier. She talked about not feeling confident to display her skills, and when she said it, it reminded me of this survey that was done that talked about when women look at a job posting and they look at the criteria. If they feel like they don't hit 80% of that criteria, they won't apply.
Yes, I read
Right?
the
You're
same
familiar
thing.
with
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
Right. And so yeah, so there's that kind of that component to us. And so I really feel like it's important to understand what your strengths are, right? Because when you get into cyber, if you're a SOC analyst, you work in GRC, you work in data protection, there's gonna be multiple people potentially on a team that are doing the same thing, right? But there is a value in showing up as you. Everyone can probably figure out how to work a specific tool, but not everyone knows how to get to the root cause of an issue. Not everyone knows how to navigate in nuances that will happen with team dynamics, as an example, right? And so each of us are gifted in different ways with different things, right? Some of us socially adept, some of us speak well, some of us, put us in front of a piece of code and we'll figure whatever it is. And I think it's important to understand how you tick and bring that with you, right? I think so many times, and speaking about myself, we can look at someone else and say, there's this thing that they do really well that I wish I did really well. Like maybe that's the thing that will get me the callback when I apply for the job. Or maybe that's the thing that will make me stand. No, the thing that will make you stand out is you. It's just what you bring that's unique to you, and I can't tell you what that is. I can only figure out what it is for me and then show up as me with everything else, with the technical know how. I'm not trying to say don't be technically sound. I'm not trying to say don't figure out how to, be good at relationships. All of those things are critical if you're going to succeed in your career in the corporate world. But there are other nuances that are unique to you, and only you can show up that way. And that way, no one else is your competition. And when you show up at work, you can do what you need to do. And so that would be my advice to women, men, right? I know we're focusing on women, but I really feel like it's universal. Show up that way, and then that will show your benefit, the value that you bring to the organization. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what you were saying before about bringing your whole self to work. I am a big proponent of that. We don't come here with just our work faces on. We come here with, this morning spilling coffee all over before you get here, running late to drop off your kid at daycare, all of those kind of things. That plays into who you are and how you show up as well too. Okay, Samantha, on to you. Thoughts about it, best advice?
Yeah. So, okay, I feel like I don't have much experience to give all the advices for the people out there, but then only two things that I usually follow in my workplace and even in my personal life as well is that the first thing is what I do is I take initiation no matter what, even if you know about it or not. Just taking the initiation itself will give you a little more confidence for you, and then you can move on further and learn on how you're doing, and you'll get there soon. And the second thing is that when it comes to women, we tend to always think about judgment. So just keep the judgments aside and just keep doing what you're doing and just be confident enough and ask a lot more questions. So just keep asking questions and take the guidance from everyone, from the seniors and even in your team. And that's what I usually follow. And I never been, so from my experience, I've never been into the training and the management stuff even in my experience, but then now I'm training a lot of people who are newly hired, and I'm also helping the management with the hiring team and even in developing a lot of other processes in terms of my client. So that's how you work and you'll get there. So.
And I like what you said about, even if you don't know how to do it, it doesn't mean that you can't figure it out yourself if you take that initiative to kind of figure it out. Again, going back to the fake it till you make it. Okay, what about for you, Pooja? What's some good advice that you can kind of now pass along to this next generation?
So this advice I got in the 6th year of my career. So basically, I got to know that visibility is very important in corporate or in whatever work you do. So I would just like to share one personal experience. It was during COVID that, we were supposed to hire 2 more people in our team, but we got a hiring freeze, and it was just me for the data at rest function for data loss prevention team. So I had to manage it for 2 years alone, and then we got more people and eventually we trained them. But in this time, it was so difficult for me to manage everything together. Like there were business as usual activities, but even apart from that, there were like gaps which had to be remediated. There were like other initiatives. I was, supposed to take care of the entire coverage. So of course I could not do it all alone. There were like sleepless nights. There were a lot of stress. And when we got the new hires, after that, I could, get off some work, and then I could do more. But in that time, I did not focus on reporting these things nicely to the leadership team. And after some time, my mentor, my manager, he advised me that, Pooja, I feel that you should focus more on this, because if you just keep working, if you don't show it, it's not gonna matter. So I think that's one advice that I would like everyone to consider.
Yes, absolutely. So being proud of your accomplishments and not being afraid to really showcase them to people and to your workplace, because that is how you're going to, again, show up and be a representative in this particular industry for other aspiring women in here as well. Yeah, okay. So obviously you guys are women, but you're also experts in your field. So I don't want to waste this opportunity to ask you and get some advice from you during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So what advice can you give to people the easiest thing that they can just do kind of right off the hop to protect their personal information as well as maybe protect their workplace as well. So maybe we'll start with you, Pooja.
Sure. So easiest things you can do is, be considerate about protecting your passwords and be aware of the phishing scams. These all are, very common. So start with that. And then we have plenty of resources on LinkedIn and many other places. So, start with the basics, and then whatever time or motivation you have, just keep doing it, because this domain is so vast. So no matter what you do, it's not going to give you complete security, but it will keep you much safer when you just start.
Yes, good point. Just being even aware of cybersecurity really helps. What about for you, Samitha? What's some advice that you can provide to people who are watching online or in the audience here today?
Well, see, when it comes to data, it's always like it needs to be protected in all the ways possible. So whenever, like, you see, how I learned personally on how to protect the data is whenever you go check in some online portals, or when you're entering your details in some portals or anywhere, you will always have this privacy policies over there. It's like, just give it a minute or two, just randomly, if you go through that, you will understand it, how and where your data is going and how your data is going to be used, and you will get to know on how much data you're supposed to provide them, and what needs to be provided and what not to be done. And that's one thing that I usually do. If it's required, I do provide it, or else I just ignore it. If it's really important, then I'll go for it and I'll see how can I protect it. But then otherwise, just ignore it and don't unnecessarily provide the data on whenever possible. And today morning, I just experienced one call, which they told that they called me from immigration, but I'm not sure, because usually immigration people doesn't call to the people. And then they directly asked me about my date of birth, but then I refused to give them my date of birth, and they started to explain all the possible ways, and me not thinking that it's not a scam. And that's when I provided my data. So it's always good. Phone scams are like the most frequent ones in the social engineering. So it's always good to be double checking and making sure that you're not providing information to all the people, and be safe all the time. So yeah, that's what I give.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And I'm one of those people who is guilty of just scrolling through the form that they make you do, the accept all for cookies, or, to scroll and say, I accept all the conditions without actually reading it. But it's probably not a bad idea to actually stop and realize how they're actually using my data. That's probably some good advice there. And definitely, yeah, the whole idea of challenging the scams, like when you get a suspicious phone call, just feel free to ask those questions, right? Like, you're not going to look like a jerk for trying to protect your own personal information. So make sure that you're asking those right questions. Okay, what about from you, Nikki? What are some things that we can do to safeguard our own personal information online?
Give me all your passwords. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right.
I think mine's password 123. Is that wrong?
Yeah, we should talk
Kidding,
about making
kidding.
strong passwords, Joe. Anyway, what I'd say is kind of tied to what Pooja and Sam already touched on, because phishing is such a big risk at work and in our personal lives. I'd say just be present. It's not usually a control that we talk about, but what I found with both personally and professionally is that a lot of times when you get tricked by a phishing message or something like that, it's because you're busy doing something else. You have a ton of emails, so you just kind of like click, right? Or the context was just right. So like you were expecting a gift card from your boss, and then, then you got a request about something. So it just kind of made sense. So if you can be a little bit more present, a little bit more aware when these things come through, oftentimes you can pick up on these little clues, right, that are there that tell you this doesn't feel right? But often we're so rushed, we're so hurried that sometimes we just kind of roll with it. So I would just say slow down a little bit, be present, and that might help you spot the fraud.
Yeah, and follow
Yeah.
that intuition, because if it feels a little off or it sounds a little too good to be true, it probably is, right? That's probably still a good advice. All right, so we probably have a number of people who are watching online as well. I think there's a few people there who have signed up to do so, and some of them are women who are interested in getting into cybersecurity or into STEM. So what do you think are some concrete actions that somebody who is interested in STEM and in cybersecurity can take right now to kind of help get into this space right away?
It's a good one. Yeah, if there's already the interest, I'd say go for it. To do it now. Okay, now what does go for it mean? It might mean enrolling in this program that you've been thinking about trying for the longest time. If you're online and you're listening to me and you're hearing my voice, sign up for the program. Just do it. Hopefully, Nike doesn't come for me.
And we didn't even pay Nikki to say
right.
this about Concordia, so this is amazing.
Right, so sign up. There's so many ways to get into cyber. I feel like all of our ways were pretty much like school education track, but if you're in a job right now, and let's say you're in something that's related to cyber, so you're in ops or you're at the help desk, let your manager know that you're interested, right? That's another kind of action, so that if something opens up, potentially you can do that. So those are two pieces of advice I'd give. Getting into cyber can look different. Whatever it is for you to kind of make that track into cyber or into your STEM field, just do it today. Do it now. Yeah.
Yes, and I like the advice of letting somebody who's in management know, so that when the next opportunity comes, or even if there's professional development opportunities, then you're the next name that kind of comes up naturally in their mind because you shared that. Good advice. Okay, what about from you, Sam?
Okay, so I'll just share two of the experiences that I recently got. So when we were hiring like two people, and two of them were women, and we got to know their stories, that one of them have the background from the financial services. So she was never into any certifications or schooling. She did not follow all this tradition of going to school. And then she did some really good certifications, and she got the interview, and she was telling her story, and she got something happened with her credit card issues, and then she started to dig into what exactly is happening in the world and how we can secure everything. And then she got really interested towards this field and this particular jobs, and then she started changing her career, and then that's how she did some good certifications, and then she came up and changed the career. So it's not that you have to start with the schooling, or there is nothing a tradition to follow. It's when you decide if you want to do that. We have plenty of resources out there, and you can set your path and you can get there. So that's the one good advice that I can give.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good advice that, you can just look up some certifications and just see if that course is even right for you. I know we have some courses through our Office of Extension that are in cybersecurity as well. So that's also a really good way to kind of start and just see if it's for you.
Yeah, it's just that following, like, do it now or never, and you just have to do it no matter what.
Yep, just do it again. There we go. Nike infringement again. Okay, over to you, Pooja.
Yes, so I think that many people think that cybersecurity or in general STEM is very difficult, and that's what stops them from entering this domain. But in fact, it is difficult. But the cybersecurity domain itself is very vast. So there is sales, pre-sales, there is cybersecurity awareness teams. There are so many different things. I've been into cybersecurity for about 9 years, but I don't think that, I know enough. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very diverse industry. So you're not going to be stuck just, coding or figuring out, problem solving all the time every day if those aren't your strengths. There's lots of different areas that you can go with this education.
That's right. So just find your niche and then, follow your path. Try to understand that, what are your strengths, what are your skills, and then find a profession which can match that. So you don't have to be very, technical, or you don't have to be studying all the time. You can do it with your own skill set too. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so our hour is already coming to a close. So I wanted to finish off by just asking the three of you, what would you like to see in this industry in over the next 10 years? And that can be anything ranging from, what we've talked about today about being women working in cybersecurity, or even just, kind of how you want to see the industry evolve.
So I think I would like to see that we won't have a need of having these conversations a lot. It would become a neutral or normal. So yeah, 10 years down, I really think that we'll reach that stage that we don't need to talk about it. We are all humans. We are all working, and everyone's mind is different. We are just collaborating.
Yep, love that. Okay, what about over to you, Samitha?
Well, I really wish what Pooja has said, I will definitely be seeing in 10 years. Yeah, that's a good thing that I also wish to see. And one more thing is that it's just have to be a new normal how we talk about the STEM. So I hope we will be seeing it as a normal one, and it will all be like a diverse field where you can also be comfortable. It's just not a woman or a man who needs to be, and we don't have to conduct meetings and call women into the cybersecurity. So I just want that to be just a new normal. Like, okay, cybersecurity, okay, that's also one field that we are all welcoming people. So that's
Yes, I love that. We're creating a new normal where, gender parity is just a normal thing and we don't need to call awareness to this type of panel discussion so much. Okay, over to you. Last word to you, Nikki.
I'll stay on topic and I'll say I'd like to see more men who are in women's spaces. If I go back to my first point, I feel like if that happens, then we'll achieve what Pooja and Sam just articulated. Yeah.
Very good. I like that as well. So thank you. Thank you to all three of you. So, three remarkable women who have had remarkable and totally different careers, but their common thread is that they started here at Q. So, let's give them a big round of applause for sharing their time with us today. And I will now call Dr. Allison Yakishin back to the stage to just close off our session.
Thank you so much. So, as I was listening to our panelists, I thought of Concordia University of Edmonton's mission statement, which is that it is a community of learning grounded in scholarship and academic freedom, preparing students to be independent thinkers, ethical leaders, and citizens for the common good. Now, didn't these panelists demonstrate that? Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. So here at Concordia University of Edmonton, we have this amazing program, MISM, Masters of Information Systems Assurance Management, MISAM, as well as the Masters of Information Systems Security Management, MISM. MISAM is celebrating 10 years, and as I started today's event, tomorrow is our big celebration. Feel free to join us here in Tegler at 3 p.m. But we also have a Master's of Science and Information Technology program in the Faculty of Science. And we have undergraduate program in cybersecurity here at Concordia. Thank you for being a part of our community, for sharing stories and being here to listen, both in person and online. Josephine, thanks for moderating. You're a great MC. Listen to the podcasts that we have for Concordia and stay connected to our amazing community. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Bye-bye. Josephine just said, hey, you can't end without saying that we had a draw for those who registered, and the winner of Concordia's gift pack for pre-registering for this event is Maria Oliode. And Maria will contact you, but congratulations. Thanks, everyone, for being here.